It's here. It's beautiful, unless you're a BYU fan. The Big 12 schedule has been officially released. We'll discuss today. Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12, is joining me here. I almost thought that was an Arizona State logo on your sweatshirt there. It had some ASU vibes, but it's just a Savannah Banana logo, so we'll just have to live with that. But I tell you what, if you're a BYU fan and you look at this 2025 schedule and you want to call Brett Yormark and leave an angry voicemail like you want to yell at a congressman for voting against a piece of legislation he said he would vote in favor of, I wouldn't be able to blame you here, Drake.
You know, BYU fans are not happy with the fact that there will be a 70-day span. Greg Wrubell, the voice of the Cougars, tweets out 70-day span between September 6th and November 15th where BYU will play two. That is 2 home football games. What is the bread and butter of BYU football? It would be home games. They're very good at those because of the atmosphere at LaVell Edwards Stadium. The fact you don't get very many for that long of a stretch is going to be something that hampers a team that was so good in one-score victories last year. JT Westerso of Locked On Utes has brought this up a lot. Teams that win one-score games or lose one-score games fluctuate year by year. So a team that was 6-1 in one-score games last season, there's a good chance they go 2-5 this year or 1-3 in those very same sort, because that's the nature of college football. For BYU, you need as much home time as possible to build off of last season. Now, do I think that everybody is happy with the Big 12 schedule? Actually, no. Everyone's pretty upset. West Virginia, only one home game in October. That one's against TCU. Schools like a UCF are looking around going, hey, where's our rival? Can we have like a rival, please, or something? And does it have to be Houston? And schools like Baylor are posing the question, hey, we're playing Houston during Rivalry Week. Why don't we all, like as a collective, have this Saturday, where we can see BYU, Utah, a TCU, Baylor, Kansas State, Iowa State. And then we start to ask the question, why aren't Baylor and Texas Tech playing this year? The first time since the Eisenhower administration. The Big 12 saying
1950s. I know when the Eisenhower administration is, in case you doubted my nerd capabilities out there.
Yeah, that's why he has a girlfriend. And the Big 12,
it's funny because I don't.
Fan bases are asking the question where it seems so obvious to have these built-in rivalries because these schools and fan bases love them, even if it's not on a rivalry weekend. Just having Baylor, Texas Tech, or Iowa State, Kansas State every year, no one's going to be mad. No one's going to be upset about Yormark for protecting some of our favorite long-standing games, but instead we're throwing them away. We reemphasize that with the schedule, and we see again that when the biggest Saturday of college football rolls around, like imagine Matt, you're not JT, you're Spencer. Imagine, Spencer, this last year, that BYU and Utah game was played on Rivalry Weekend with a spot in the college football playoff on the line. Iowa State, Kansas State was, and it rocked. There is a fear amongst the Big 12 that they would get swallowed up by Alabama, Auburn, or Michigan, Ohio State at noon. And so they are too scared to put their football games on that day. That's the reason they do it. No doubt about it. And I think it sucks.
Well, having that fear, I understand it. I wish it wasn't in play. I understand why college football as a sport puts their national championship on a Monday, even though it's dumb. But I understand they look at that and go, that's how we avoid the NFL. We don't want to go head to head. But is that actually serving the fans? No, that's serving the network executives that are planning all of this, the people that are profiting off of college football who actually don't care very much about the sport itself, no matter what they may say or how happy they are to be the partner in this, that, and the other thing. There are a lot of moves like this, for instance, a lack of rivalry weekend highlighting by the Big 12 where fans have to look around and go, wait, aren't we the reason that you have a sport in the first place? This would be a glorified exhibition if tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people didn't show up to a stadium, or if millions didn't watch on TV. You wouldn't have any of this. Why can you not consider us in your decision making? And that's where I've always come at sports discussion and commentary in these sorts of matters is, hey, can we remember why sports are great? Remember in COVID when there were no fans in the stands? It was better than nothing, but it stunk. It stunk. It wasn't the same product, didn't have the same juice, didn't feel anywhere near as exciting. But on the BYU front, I want to go back to this because I think the point that JT made to you is the correct one, which is the Cougars have got 6 home games and 6 road games. That is not a typical split for a Power 4 team because they're going at East Carolina. I don't know why they are doing this. And on the one hand, I understand the frustration for BYU fans to say, hey, we had 2 home games in this long of a stretch. What the heck is that? On the flip side, some of that is on BYU because the non-conference scheduling is left up to who? The universities to control. I think they have too much control. But they're playing Stanford at home on September 6th, and then the following weekend, they've got a bye, and then they go at East Carolina. Nobody made them do that. That is something that was orchestrated by the university. So I think you can have a gripe with the Big 12 Conference and how they have laid this thing out, while also recognizing that stat that the voice of the Cougars tweeted out is also partially the fault of the administration.
Can I also put into perspective for BYU fans?
No, you're not allowed to. It's my show, and you'll do whatever I say. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Can I help BYU fans a little bit here? You didn't get one of the hardest schedules in this conference. Your non-conference is pretty pitiful, by the way. You're going to win all 3 of those games. You should go win them going away. Then you open conference play with these 4 games: at Colorado, West Virginia, Arizona, Utah. Teams you beat the brakes off of last year, or teams that shouldn't be that great this year. That at Colorado is the toughest of those 4, I think, because the Utah game is at home. Your toughest 2, you have a bye week between them. At Iowa State, bye at Texas Tech. Then you finish the year at home against TCU, at Cincinnati, at home against UCF. You'll be favored in probably all 3 of those. You got a pretty soft cushion to open with, a pretty soft landing spot as well, and your toughest games have a bye week between them. If anybody should be excited about where the Big 12 put you, it's probably the BYU Cougars. There are other schools like a Cincinnati who opens with Nebraska next season who are asking the question, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? How are we going to keep our coach when the cards are stacked against us in both non-conference and in conference? And for BYU, you won't have to ask that. Like, Baylor's going to have a really tough go at things when they play Auburn, SMU, Samford, Arizona State, at Oklahoma State, Kansas State. That's the 4 of those games are really brutal. So you get a bye week and then go on the road against TCU, who will still be very good this season. That sucks. If you're BYU, I'd be very happy with the Big 12 has you, even though that 70-day gap with 2 home games seems so daunting.
Boy, that Baylor schedule.
That's not fun, man. SMU, Auburn, Arizona State to open Big 12 play, Kansas State. Here's
the upside, though. That's what, a 5-game stretch that you listed?
Yeah, something like that.
If Baylor goes 3-2 in that 5-game stretch, are we extending Dave Aranda for a lifetime contract?
Probably, actually, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what it feels like it's worthy of. So I look at this BYU schedule, and yeah, the home game aspect is challenging and suboptimal, but I look at the road games, Drake, and they're going to be settled into the season before they play a road game that I think is truly difficult at Iowa State on October 25th. I know at Colorado and at Arizona are capable of being difficult, but I don't know, even with Fafita back, that Arizona is going to be some great team. And I think Colorado is a pullback team. So the hot start for BYU they had this past season, I think that's 100% attainable with the returning core of players that they have beyond Jake Retzlaff at quarterback.
Sure, yes. I would look for the BYU Cougars to be a top 15, borderline top 10 team after their first 3 weeks of the season, based on the way their schedule is and where they will likely be in the 16-17 range in the preseason AP poll. From there, we'll start to ask the question, would it have been worth it to play a road game against NC State? Would it have been worth it to play a road game against Wake Forest to try to get an experience against another Power 4 school and face some sort of pushback or some sort of competition? I don't think they're going to get that out of Stanford or depleted ECU. And like you mentioned, we still have enough question marks that Colorado
Stanford, I don't know. I legitimately don't know. They have to be better.
In Lavelle, and you know it's going to be a night game too.
Yeah, I'm just wondering. I think Troy Taylor's a really good coach. He's had a couple of wins in his tenure that he shouldn't have had based on the talent profile that Stanford has. So I don't know that you learn nothing there, but Stanford's struggling to adapt to the modern world of college football. I just think they have a good coach. And if they're able to keep Elijah Brown healthy at quarterback, that was a blue chip guy coming out of modern day high school. He'd be young. It'd be a tough environment for him to win it. I wonder. That's all I say. I wonder. I don't think BYU's going to have the second most talented roster in that game, but on a given day, they could have the second best coaching staff.